Hey guys, welcome back to the More Than Muscle podcast. This is episode 7, and I'm your host as always, Matt Cooney. And today I'm joined by Cillian Keane, who is a personal trainer and online coach from County Clare in Ireland. He's also competed in natural bodybuilding, and he's represented Ireland on the world stage. And he also has a massive passion for mental health, which is what we're going to delve into today. So Cillian, how are you doing?
Not too bad, Matt. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. So hopefully we'll have a good chat anyway on mental health, and I suppose fitness as well will be thrown in there. So great to be here.
We always come back to fitness, don't we?
Yeah, exactly. So it'll be good stuff.
So just to start, for any of the listeners who mightn't know who you are, if you want to just give kind of an introduction and maybe a bit of a backstory, because I know you have kind of quite an inspirational story when it comes to your own personal experience with mental health.
Yeah, so Cillian Keane is the name, based in Clare, and I have my personal training business, CK Fitness. So been running that for about 5-6 years, and over that space of time, I suppose I got into a little bit of mental health, public speaking. I've gone back to college in the past year to do peer support work in mental health. So qualified once I get my results in June, hopefully all going well, that I'll be qualified in that. So that's kind of the aim I'm kind of getting into now over the next couple of months, is a peer support worker in the area of mental health. But fitness has always been my passion, and it's kind of intertwined with mental health, where the two of them come together. You know, it's kind of, they're all interlinked. How you feel and with fitness will positively contribute to your mental health. So I kind of got into public speaking maybe about 3 or 4 years ago, and I did an event with Matt himself about 2.5-3 years ago maybe. And it was, I suppose from then I just got more and more passionate about spreading a positive message around mental health and sharing my own struggles through mental health when I was 18-19 years old. So from there I hope from my own story that people get a little bit of inspiration and get some sort of motivation that life can be lived even with mental health illness. So I suppose we'll delve into that a little bit as well.
That's perfect. So even like you were saying, kind of in your early teens to 20s, you had your own experiences and struggles kind of with mental health. So if you want to kind of give an insight into that for the listeners.
Perfect. So it probably happened around my leaving cert year. I was heading off to NUI Galway to study arts. I was doing economics, Spanish and psychology. So I noticed my mood was a little bit different around that time. I noticed I was a little bit more confident, excitable. I was really, really extroverted, and I just put it down to the buzz of heading off to NUI Galway, living away from home and living with friends. And we got to NUI, we got to Galway, living in Carr Village in Galway. And for the first few weeks, going out, making new friends, and I didn't really notice anything with my mood. I knew I was a bit more confident or whatever, but I just put it down to the buzz of college. But as weeks went by, my mood began to change. I began to slowly delve into depression. And at that stage, I didn't know much about mental health problems. And I just put it down to, this is just the norm. This is just normal. So over time, over that first year, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder the second year of my academic year in Galway, and pieces of the puzzle were coming together. I kind of noticed things where my mood would go from a high elevated state, and then a few months down the line I delve into depression. So I was seeing a kind of trend. So my second year of college, I was back in NUI Galway, and I had left that previous academic year kind of in depression. And my friends in the second academic year noticed my mood was a little bit different. I was excitable, more confident, and I was, at that stage, I was in my second manic state of bipolar disorder. So my friends began to worry. They began to see that this wasn't right. That I'd left them the down and out depressed guy to come back to life and soul of the party. So as a couple of weeks went by, I was sleeping 3 or 4 hours a night. I had energy to burn, and I was buzzing all day. My thoughts were racing. So my friend sat me down and said, Cillian, we're really worried about you. We're just something seriously wrong here. So they brought me to UCHC Galway University Hospital, and I spent a month in the psychiatric unit. And I really didn't think I needed to be there for the first couple of days. I thought I don't need to be here, but I really was in a bad place, my mindset. So I got out of hospital that time, and I just needed to refocus on something. I was so stuck in a rut. I didn't know where my life was headed, and I tried to continue on my college term, and I tried to do my Christmas exams around that time, failed them all, and I said to my parents, I need to get out of here. I need to move back home for a while just to reassess where I'm at. And from there, to cut the story in a nutshell, I suppose I used so many different tools and strategies to get to where I am today, through fitness, through mindfulness, through practicing gratitude, through journaling, and speaking up, not bottling up what was inside my head on a daily basis, because it was only going to explode otherwise. So I use all those kind of tools and tactics and I still use them to this day, to keep me mentally well and keep the mindset on a positive note. And I think fitness has been just a huge part of my life for the last number of years that I can look at positively to contribute overall to my well-being. So that's kind of the story in a nutshell. So
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure you could probably dig into it a lot
yeah,
deeper. But did
yeah.
you find, when you said fitness, had you always been into fitness, or was that something you took up kind of during that time, or what way did it work?
Yeah. Well, I used to play Gaelic football when I was younger, but I suppose when I was in school, I didn't do much sport or anything like that. And when I went to college, I started, even before college, maybe the first year before I went to college, I was doing a little bit of gym work, and then there just came more and more of a passion for me. During my struggles, I knew how beneficial fitness was for me, so that's when I signed up to become a fitness instructor. Did a 6-month course, and I knew that my passion was going to be in fitness because I knew how good it made me feel. I knew how beneficial it was for my mindset. And I loved inspiring people through health and fitness, that they could change their lives as well and become fitter, healthier, happier, more confident within themselves, just like it did for me. So that's kind of where it came from. And I like, the gym has just been a part of my life since then. And it's just so good. It just positively contributes to my well-being, like I was saying.
Yeah. And kind of two things that I noticed when you were talking earlier was, one, how you mentioned kind of your friends actually sat
Yeah.
you down and they were able to see what was going on. And then the other thing was speaking up and
Yeah.
being able to do that. Did you find those two things like helpful, as in the people around you, and for yourself, just being able to, I suppose, be open with it? Because I think
Yeah.
something that's huge is people, when it comes to mental health, they seem very afraid to talk about it. And I
Yeah.
suppose that is the stigma around it.
Yeah, I think there is a little bit of a stigma still, but I think I knew for myself I had to speak up. I had to do something for myself because I knew I didn't want to be stuck in a rut, feeling hopeless and worthless on a daily basis. I knew that I had to open up going through my depression. I knew that I had to speak up and let out whatever was going on in my head for the betterment of me going forward and just to live a happier life. I think it was just, I needed, and it was so good to have my good friends who I'm still really great friends to this day, to be able to open up and share what was going on. And they helped me and they guided me and they got me, were a major part in getting me to where I am today, and still have them as my supporters today, which is good. And that's what I kind of instill to everyone. If you are going through a tough time, is just have good people around you that you can confide in and that you can trust, that you were able to just open up and let whatever's in your head out, because it's so good. You just feel so good when you do open up when things are bothering you on a daily basis. And especially around this time with COVID-19, it's quite an anxious time and overwhelming time for a lot of people. And that's having someone there that you can just video call or FaceTime or whatever, it's just to let out what's on your head. So yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of what you said there, I think with people, often we tend to just keep everything in our head. And that's even where I think you mentioned journaling or gratitude, just literally, even if it doesn't make sense, just getting what's
Yeah.
in your head out. Even like that, even if it doesn't you're not even speaking English, it really does help.
Yeah.
And just kind of, for even your friends, I think that's really great that they were able to do that, because sometimes we might know somebody else that we may think maybe going through some issues, and being able to kind of confront it, because it is something that is hard. I can imagine is hard for, like, for your friends, it must have been hard for them to
Yeah.
do, because again, the response, they might have been afraid, where you would kind of go against them in
Yeah.
in a way.
Yeah, definitely. But I think I knew myself something was deep down inside. I knew something was wrong, and I knew that I wasn't myself. I knew there was different stages with my mood that was up and down. So deep down, I knew there was something wrong, and I was just so delighted that my friends pinpointed it and saw that there wasn't something right, and it was just that was the start of the recovery journey for me. And it's I always say this in my public speaking as well, that it's the things that you do day to day that will all add up over time. And I think it's from that was one of that moment was probably a pivotal moment in my daily steps to again get to me where I am today. So I think that was a good moment for me to see that there was something wrong. And you know
Yeah. And just to touch on, so kind of for you, say in your darkest place, if you would
yeah.
have, what kind of keys helped you to kind of get out of that place, even if you give three keys
Yeah.
for maybe anybody that is in a similar situation?
Yeah, during my darkest times, I think I I was so low like that I was going to bed like maybe 2 a.m., getting up the next day at 2 p.m. And my life had just had no structure, I had no dreams, goals, aspirations, I kind of nothing to look forward to. And I said to myself, I had just a chat with myself. I said, I can't live like this. I just have to do something. So I went back to my local GA field and I just started walking, started jogging, started walking, started jogging. And it was just the daily steps again that added up. Then I built up my confidence and self-esteem to where I eventually joined the gym. And that was the stepping stone again to my passion in fitness. So that would be the number one thing. Try and get into some sort of fitness regime or activity just to get those endorphins flowing and just to make you feel better within yourself and feel more confident as well and feel happier day to day. Number two then is definitely opening up to people. From my past experiences, I've just been able to open up on my thoughts and everything else to people I trust, even if it's a friend, family member, GP, whoever it is. Just have someone there that you can confide in, and that's the main thing. And then I suppose number three, what would it be? Is all those little things add up. Like for my overall well-being, like I mentioned at the start, is journaling, practicing gratitude day to day, like writing down maybe 2 to 3 things. And just at this current moment, it's so good to just make you focus on the good, because there's so much negative news and draining news at the moment that it just reins you into what's positive in your life. So I think they're the main three that I'd kind of recommend for people who are going through a tough time. And it can be hard to write down 3 things you're grateful for when you're going through a low, but I guarantee if you just try it for a couple of days, you'll focus yourself a little bit. You'll switch your kind of thought process to more positive things more so than the negative.
Yeah, because I think something you said there, even about movement, how you just started walking first
Yeah.
and jogging, and then eventually joined the gym. Because I think a lot of people, even with the gym in general, is kind of a fear for a lot of people. They might want to join the gym and they they either don't have the confidence or they have that bit of fear. But even just starting by anything, like you said, like you did, just literally walking around your local
Yeah.
GA field, and
Yeah.
then that got you in a better mood and into a better place to where you then could join the gym. I think a lot of people could take a lot from that, especially if they're in a situation where uh, the gym kind of, or fitness even in general, may be a bit foreign to them. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be an intense training session or a certain sport or
Yeah.
weightlifting. It literally can be anything.
Course. Yeah. I think it's just doing what you like to do and not having to say to yourself, I have to be doing what everyone else is doing. I think you just find something that you're passionate about, finding some activity that will get you up and moving. It could be anything at all. Like for me, it was starting off doing just walking and jogging. I like the gym now, lifting weights, but necessarily for someone else, it could be yoga, it could be Pilates, it could be swimming, anything at all, just to get the body up and active. And that is the main thing that I instill, and I'm sure you instill to your own clients as well, Matt, on a
Yeah.
daily basis. Just doing the movement that you enjoy doing, that will for long term sustainability, that you'll keep going for the rest of your life. Really, you know.
Yeah, and I think it's just so important, because again, sometimes we look at training from the perspective of like our bodies, or wanting to look different instead of using it for actually our own mental health and our own wellness on a day-to-day basis. I think sometimes actually it's underestimated just how powerful it is for your mind, for your mood, you know? And I think that's really, really something that everybody could take away, that it doesn't have to be like, just because me or you go to the gym, it doesn't mean that everybody has to, or that's the thing that needs to be done, you know?
That's exactly it. And I think it's just to add on that, it's when you do start getting an activity, some people kind of, they focus on the goal and they focus maybe on the weight loss and whatever else, but they forget about the journey, and the journey of all the positive things that are happening along the way. Like your mood is better, you may be more agile, you may be more flexible, you may be happier within yourself day to day. And people forget about that. They look at the long-term goal of looking at the scales every day or looking at the scales every week and nothing's happening, but they forget about, and I say this all the time, that the journey is the reward. And that's, I try and focus, it's hard sometimes, but I try and focus that on myself, my own kind of goals at times, that just focusing on the journey more so than looking at the end goal all the time. But the end goal will come over time if you just kind of switch it around a little bit, you know?
Yeah, I think that's really beneficial, because again, if it can be very easy to get demotivated if you're always looking at the outcome instead of the actual process of getting there. Because something I often will tell people, like, if I just put you in a body that was 20 kgs lighter or whatever your goal is, your mind is still in that body that was 20 kg ago. So like, you still probably won't be happy. Whereas if you go through that process and, you know, you do the activities and you do the things to get to that goal, you learn along the way. You know, it's like, even for you, I'm sure with your journey in mental health and even from your bodybuilding competitions, the amount you learned along the way to get to those goals, you know.
It's the process that you learn, definitely, like you said, like you learn so much about yourself, and especially with the bodybuilding, it just became more resilient as well. And just, it's still with me to this day how resilient you can be and what the mind and body is capable, I suppose, achieving something like that as well. And you've done it yourself, Matt. You know how it is, how hard it is, and just how stronger mentally and physically you become day to day. So that's good.
And like, even for you, the from the time, say, of you started your recovery to bodybuilding, like, wasn't that long, wasn't it? It was just a couple of years.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, it was. It was a couple of years. So, I just, with the bodybuilding side of things, I just wanted to prove to myself that I could achieve something big. And I set a goal, got a coach, and it just kind of manifested into that. The first year I competed, I did the MBFI, came third, and I said, "Do you know what? I'm going to give it another lash again next year." And I just wanted to redeem myself, and I came first in the under 68 kg category, and, you know, representing Ireland then, the MBFI in the UK then, was just amazing. It was just so good just to see the fruits of your labor just working out, and just seeing you're reaping all the rewards of working hard for 24 weeks of the year. But it's not even that, it's the whole year, it's 2 years, it's 5 years, it's so many years of hard work getting to that stage. And it just compounded the fact that I knew that I always knew when going through my struggles there was going to be better days to come. And I just kind of, those moments were kind of, so I was so proud. Just went like the NBFI especially, and other moments in my life I'm so proud of as well. But that was up there with one of the best, like, you know, winning something like that.
And because even like what you mentioned earlier, you literally went from kind of that state of having no purpose or no goals. You were saying, like, you even mentioned not essentially getting up in the morning for anything, to that in such a short period of time. And I think it's really powerful to see what's possible when you kind of start to get your mindset in the right place. Because even with bodybuilding, like, I would argue that to do a bodybuilding show, it's more mental than physical, even though it's the physical thing, obviously you're judged on that. But for me anyway, to get there was more the mental struggle of getting there, you know, the process. Did you find that yourself?
100%. I totally agree there with you. I think it was just mentally you'd be drained from the training, from the cardio, even from the lesser food. But I think driving through and just getting to the end goal. You know that there's something in sight that you know you have to get to, but I think it's just the mental barriers that you have to fight against on a daily basis. Some days just to get in the training session or even to go for a walk, it's tough going. But I think it just proves you just become more resilient, like I was saying, and it's amazing what you can achieve in a couple like 20-24 weeks, and just see yourself up on stage and be proud of yourself as well. And that's massive, like, you know.
Yeah. And something I always say is like, when the mind is right, the body will follow. Because essentially, there's a rule, like a 40% rule. I'm not sure who said it, was a Navy SEAL, but it was like, when your mind gives up, you're only 40% there of what you're physically capable to do. So essentially, your mind is going to give up before your body. So that's where having that mindset and being resilient will see you a lot further than you could physically probably thought you could go.
Yeah, that's for sure. I like that. Maybe see, that was probably David Goggins or someone like that. Now to said that or someone.
Yeah, it was someone, and I think I may have butchered that, but it was something along them lines. But you often see this in, like, when people do these crazy feats of like running whatever ultra marathons and stuff, and they'll all say a lot of it is just that mindset and mental toughness more so than physical, obviously the pain and torture. But that's the way they get through it, you know.
That's exactly it. And just to add to that as well, there's always something more you can give. You know, when you think you're tired or whatever else, there's always another 10%, 20% you can give, and that's 100% for sure. Like, especially with the bodybuilding side of things, there was days there I was just so tired, didn't want to train, but you know, if you get some sort of motivation, you'll get something done, and that's what you just have to push on and see what you're actually capable of as well, and that's a powerful thing too.
Yeah, and just to go back on something you mentioned earlier about kind of journaling and gratitude. So something I've been asked recently is for people that are kind of starting out with it and they're not sure what to do or how to do it. What advice would you give to people kind of that might be in that situation?
Yeah, with the journaling, I usually journal and I just write down thoughts, ideas. I may write down a couple of goals that I want to achieve over the next couple of months, and kind of do a kind of roadmap of what I want to achieve. And that's what I do. I just write down at the end of the day what happened during the day, and I kind of say to people, write as if no one's going to read it, because I think if you get the idea that someone's going to read it, you won't write your true self onto the paper. So that's with the journaling side. I think it's so good to let out whatever is in your mind onto paper, and it feels so good to do that. So when you don't have someone you can talk to on that particular day or something like that, just letting out the emotions, the thoughts, and the feelings or whatever else. Then with the gratitude, it's so powerful, and I just can't recommend it enough. So 3 things maybe in the morning, 3 things at night that you're grateful for, and it could be anything at all. It could be, I'm grateful for that I got in and walked today. I'm grateful for the support of my family. Anything at all that will positively contribute to your mental health and well-being. And it's so good. You don't realize that if you do it for a week, you'll definitely notice the benefit. And I do it long term. I've been doing it for the last couple of years, and it's just so good to do on a daily basis. And it's just simple things, just to write down a couple of things, and it's simple things that has a massive effect.
Yeah, and I think even like with journaling, what I would tell people is kind of like, I don't even know myself that much, but I would kind of put to them, I'm like, there's no right or wrong, and just kind of write your thoughts, like whatever it is, and there's no, like, whether it's 2 minutes or 20, whether it's 2 lines or 20 pages, it doesn't really matter. It's more about literally you and your thoughts, and even if like you said, if you write, like, people aren't going to read it, because even if it doesn't make sense, you're still just getting whatever's in your mind. And I think it's something you start to get better. Like, at the start, it is very like looking at a blank page and being like, what is this type of thing? But I think, like, one of the great benefits of it for people is it often gets them to stop and actually think. Whereas a lot of us live our whole life on autopilot. And, like, even if we can do that for 5 minutes a day, it makes such a difference to our day, you know?
That's it. And I think another thing to add on to that, even when you're journaling, is to ask yourself a question or two. You know, ask yourself when you're starting to journal, like, what did I achieve today or something like that? What kind of goals have I over the next couple of months? It might just get you started with writing, because if you just have a blank piece of paper and you're like, what am I going to write about here today? maybe write down a question you want to ask yourself, and then that could spur on something. And I'm sure it'll spur on a bit of writing then for someone. So that's another
Yeah,
thing I would
I think that's a
recommend.
really good point because again, yeah, like when you're struggling to start, yeah, like 2 to 3 simple questions can
Yeah,
definitely at least get it flowing. And I think
yeah,
what happens as well is once you just start, like most things, it just starts to come naturally then, you know, and over time, it could just be a thing of, you know, you have your own way of doing it, if that
yeah,
makes sense. But even with gratitude as well, what you mentioned there was, I I've started doing it a lot more. I kind of delved in and out of it, but yeah, like the amount of like the benefits from it have been huge. And I think what what happens with a lot of people is when you start to practice gratitude, you definitely, for me, I would have said I was never a negative person years ago, but I actually really was when I look back now. And I just never, for like a lot of times you don't realize it. And I've had like clients when we do this type of stuff say to me, yeah, they didn't realize how much negative thoughts they had. And it's
yeah,
not until you kind of start to do gratitude and try to look towards the positives, you might start to realize, yeah, like when I actually think about it, a lot of negativity comes into my mind, you know, and then
yeah,
being able to combat that with a positive by simply, like you said, like just 3 things. Once you can do that consistently, you actually kind of train your brain as well to start thinking more positively, you know.
yeah. And I think it's just flipping the switch. You know, we all get kind of just negative thoughts coming into our minds at times, but I think it's just switching that around to something more positive if it's possible. And it is difficult to do at the start, but I think I like you said, you have to train the minds to do it, and just looking at the, so when you're practicing gratitude, you're looking at the overall picture of what's good in life. And there is like, when you look at your own individual as a person, there's so much you can be thankful for on a daily basis, no matter how small it is. There's something in your life that you could be very, very thankful and grateful for. So yeah, it's just powerful. It's powerful
Yeah.
stuff.
And I think it's kind of a method of what I always tell people is like celebrating the small wins.
Yeah,
Because I don't think we do it often enough. We tend to kind of just glance at the positive things. We don't really appreciate them. And then the negative kind of takes up more of our focus, you know. Um, and that's what I think is a really good thing from gratitude as well. It's just being able to appreciate those things.
yeah. I think a lot of people, some people maybe look at what they haven't achieved yet, and they forget about the stuff that they have done, and they just brush it under the table. And they don't, like you said, they don't. The small wins should be celebrated all the time, and they'll all add up as well. And I think it's just doing that daily, and just that's just going to have a positive effect on the well-being again.
Yeah. So just for anybody that may be like in a situation where they're kind of struggling with their mental health, is there anywhere or anything where you tell people to go, or any things they should do if they are in that situation?
Yeah, for me, it was, again, it was just opening up, and it was my friends that brought me to that hospital at that stage. So I think if you are struggling, if you don't have a friend, family member you can talk to at that particular time, GPs, go to your GP or something like that, and just verbalize again what's going on in your head. And that's, again, it's so important. Like we touched on so much, is to be able to open up when times do get tough. Because I, through my, I suppose, public speaking now, I want to spread that positive message regarding mental health. And I think if I just hit home with one person in the audience, I've done my job, I think. And that is the main thing. You know, it's so beneficial to me, and I get so much gratitude from it, that I've helped someone see that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and you can live a happy and productive life even with a mental health illness as well. And I think that that's so important. And just not being afraid to ask for help, that
Yeah.
you're not going to be a burden to someone. The people that love and support you on a daily basis will have the time, will make the time to listen. um I think that's, yeah, hopefully that helps. Yeah,
Yeah, I think asking for help is a big one, and it's kind of where a lot of times we just don't ask, or at least we wait until it's not too late, but we let it go on for so much
yeah,
longer than it needs to be. And that's like mental health. I think it's covers everything really, like something fitness, business. I know for me, like one of my biggest regrets or mistakes that I made is just not asking for help. Just
Yeah.
I was stubborn. I don't know if it's a male thing or something. I just tried to kind of do everything on my own all the time. And especially even with my fitness journey starting off for years, it was all, I never asked anybody for help. It was all myself. And I just kind of thought I could do it myself, you know, that I didn't
Yeah.
need help. And now looking back, I'm like, I could have made so much more progress, like in all areas, if I just actually put down my guard and stop being so afraid. A lot of it for me was just being afraid, to be honest, of asking for help. And it wasn't until I did that I could see the benefits of it, you know.
That's the same for me. I suppose on my fitness journey as well. I was pissing against the wind for a couple of years, like just training away and then going home and eating like I'd finished a marathon as well. Like, you know, it was just constant up and down with the way I was going. And then I reached out to a coach and he got me in unbelievable shape. And that was just, I was like, why did I do that 2, 3, 4 years previous? So I could have been way faster. Like you said, I could have made way more progress. And same with business as well. I think we do want to do the things for ourselves, but I think it's just reaching out to someone who's been there and done that and gets the results and everything else, and just can help you in a faster way rather than you just twiddling your thumbs and pissing against the wind for a couple of years, you know. And that same with someone on a fitness journey, you know. It's just so important. Just if you are struggling and you have been struggling with your fat loss or weight loss for whatever, a year, 2 years, then it's just no harm in just reaching out to someone that you can invest in to help you along the way, because that's so important. You don't want to be doing the same thing over and over again for the next year or 2 years again. So
Yeah. And that's like, even for me, that's like one of my goals now is like, I spent 5 or 6 years, like you were saying, uh, trying to do everything. And it was a blessing now because I've basically done everything wrong possible that you can. So when I work with people, I'm like, yeah, I've done that before, because, you know, whether
yeah,
it's like that chicken broccoli diet, the training seven days a week, trying to train twice a day. I've done kind of basically everything wrong, and it's helped me with my coaching, but
yeah,
it just took me like 7 years to realize. Whereas that's like my goal now is like, okay, I can like save you this 7 years of hassle I had of
yeah.
complete basically wasting my time, and we can just do it right from the start, you know.
But I think it just makes you more relatable as well, that people will resonate with how you've come through whatever like, you know, your fitness journey as well, what you learned and that, and just your experiences will help people, and you are getting great results with people. So that's just in a nutshell, isn't it?
Yeah. So even for kind of mindset, mental health, is there any like books or resources that have helped you or that you would recommend for people?
Books or resources? Yeah, books I read, like I've been reading Carol Dweck, Mindset. It's a really powerful. I think I sent on to you, Matt, as well. I'm nearly sure.
Yeah.
What else? Brendan Burchard, Motivation Manifesto is another one I was kind of reading at the moment. I kind of read self-development books a lot of the time, like,
Yeah.
and even Gary Vaynerchuk, his books.
Yeah.
What else? Just all that kind of stuff will, if you're reading day to day, you know, it's going to give you different ideas, different stuff. And I kind of use the books for creating kind of different content for my own social media and stuff like that. And that helps me just think of stuff that will hopefully inspire someone and ultimately someone will take action and do something positive in their own life as well. That's the main thing I kind of want to, for my own social media, is to share like valuable stuff that people will go away and implement and do something positive, you know.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of it, yeah.
Because the ones that kind of stick out to me are probably Psycho-Cybernetics is one I just
Yeah,
finished.
yeah,
And the mindset one, yeah, that you mentioned, that was one that comes to my head. And I think Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by
yeah.
Mark
Mark
Manson.
Manson.
That
Yeah,
was another one. And probably the Power of Now by
yeah,
Eckhart
yeah.
Tolle. They're
Very
kind
good.
of
Yeah,
the ones that come to the top of the mind for me. And
yeah,
like you said about reading, I was allergic to reading for years. And I'd say the last 3 4 years I've started to read. Most, like, I listen to audiobooks, I prefer it that way, but
yeah,
that has been one of the biggest game changers for me in my daily routine, is just reading. And like you said, just being able to take little small bits from it, and whether it's content or just implementing it in your daily routine, your daily life, you know.
Yeah. And I'm the same. I do still prefer audiobooks, but now and again, picking up a book is so refreshing as well. Just to read something, fill the head with a bit of knowledge. So yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, just to move on, I think we touched on this earlier, but I just wanted to cover kind of like training, exercise, and nutrition.
Yeah.
I know you've mentioned it on your stories a few times, how like for you, training, nutrition is more for your mental health than like body composition, because
Yeah.
I think for most people, like training and nutrition is geared towards body composition, and we
Yeah.
tend to neglect or forget about our mental health and kind of doing it for that reason, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's been a dramatic switch, I suppose, over the last number of years. Obviously, during the bodybuilding, I was more focused because I was going to get up on stage, and it was going to be how I was based on how I looked as well. So, over the last few years, I know that I've kind of switched it where I'm looking more how it contributes to my well-being, my mental health day to day. And I fuel with nutrition. I fuel my day for energy, just to feel good, and like, it's funny in a way how it's kind of switched where I just look at training as, I look at, like I said at the start, how many positive things it's doing for me day to day. The feeling good, the feeling fitter, just to being able to do things that I hadn't been able to do a couple of years ago as well through fitness. And it's the stuff that I just embrace. And I think for anyone that's listening, just kind of embrace those things, becoming a little bit fitter, not climbing up the stairs where you're not out of breath. Those little things that will they all matter, and that's what I kind of look at day to day. Just more so than body composition, because I don't know, body composition is still, you just want to be in good shape as well. But I think I've kind of switched it where I'm more focused on how it's contributing to my mental health as well. Because if I feel good and feel happy within myself, that's more important for me.
Yeah, I think that's even for me, and the why I call this podcast More Than Muscle is because I would have had the same as you, where I started, obviously, like many people, we start because I wanted to look better, and it was more about gaining muscle, and then it was
Yeah.
like losing fat. But now, like, the way I look has gone so far down the list of priorities to why I train or eat well. And I think it's maybe just a natural thing for people as you get more experienced. I don't know, because even for me, I suppose, like, progress does slow down as you get, the longer you do it. But like you were saying, the process and not relying on like just a number on a scales or the way I look in the mirror
Yeah.
is like really important for me, because again, I'm more focused on how I feel day to day,
Yeah.
and letting that dictate kind of the reason why I choose to eat healthy or I choose to train and exercise.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people would be striving when they're on a kind of weight loss, fat loss journey. They're striving for perfection all the time, and I don't think there is a perfection. It's kind of looking at, embrace your own individual qualities, embracing all the good things that you can do, and again, not getting fixated by that number on the scales, or just looking again at how good you're doing in your own life, how good, how positive you are day to day through training, through eating healthy, and everything else. And everything else around that will all fall into place anyway. I think that just happens naturally when you kind of switch your mind frame from, oh, I have to get to a certain weight by this date. But if you switch it around and say, I just want to feel good day to day and feel better within myself, the journey is going to be much better.
Yeah, definitely. And I know it's like, it's one of those things that's easy to say,
Yeah.
because but it really is important, because again, if you're going to do this for a long period of time, or essentially the rest of our lives, like
Yeah.
that's the way, like we can't give up eating either, like that's
Yeah.
what I try to put across to people, that although even if your goal is fat loss or whatever your goal is, we're still always going to eat,
Yeah.
so we need to eat in a way that makes us feel good, and at least still brings us towards our goals. But if we become less focused on that, Sometimes actually, I think a problem with everyone is we want the results like yesterday.
Yeah.
And that mindset actually makes it longer, the whole process, because we end up going around in circles all the time. Because again, we want the results so fast that we're trying to do things that aren't sustainable, that we don't enjoy. And that actually, even by trying to go faster, we actually go slower in the long
Yeah.
term. So it's kind of like that, just if you can take the slower approach with
Yeah.
kind of stop not looking at the scales as much in the short term and look at the long term kind of where you want to be in the long term. It can
Yeah.
keep you going, instead of getting demotivated and kind of going off track.
Definitely. And I think just to add to that as well, I think I put a post, it was wrote a couple of months ago. It was, would you rather lose weight in 4 to 6 weeks or lose weight in 6 months and keep it off for the long term? So, or lose weight in the 4 to 6 weeks and rebound and put it all back on again, or else do the slower approach and just keep it off for good. And it's funny, like a lot of people, everyone, like you said, they kind of want the results yesterday as well. But I think just if you, it's a long term, and it's an enjoyable process if you just go the slower route and do it in the sustainable way, and just be able to keep the weight off as well over the time. So that's kind of just add to that.
Yeah, and I think from like a mental health, a lifestyle perspective, and the routines and habits, like we mentioned, with like just movement, journaling, all that stuff, kind of starts to tie into your life. Like when you take a slower kind of approach, you start to, like I said, it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle. When you can look at it from lifestyle, you're more likely to kind of keep going and essentially be a bit kinder to yourself, because I think we're all very prone to never, like, nothing's ever good enough for us. Like, we always want to push harder, and like often, like what I would say is kind of nearly treat yourself like you treat someone else.
Yeah.
Like if you had made that progress, I'd be like complimenting you and saying how well you've done. Whereas if I made that same progress, I'm like, yeah, but I want to be here, or I'm not there, So
Yeah.
I think that's a big one for people to kind of take away.
I think it's just giving yourself a pat in the back from time to time. That's the main thing, just looking at, again, like we said earlier, is just looking how good you're doing in your own life. And obviously if you have more goals to achieve, go out and achieve them, but just look at the good things that you've done and that you've achieved, and how proud of yourself, how proud of you should be really on a day-to-day basis. We're all doing great, like day to day, we should be just embracing that as well.
Yeah, definitely. So before we finish up, Cillian, is there anything that I didn't ask you that I should have?
I think we covered a lot there. Geez, that was 45 minutes, isn't it, more or less? Yeah, it's good. Yeah, good stuff. 40 minutes.
Usually
yeah,
I forget something.
it was good. It's a great chat. It's good to chat about the mental health side of things, and how it'll kind of incorporate into people's daily life, and just the tools and strategies that I have used over the past years, that I still use to this day: the journaling, the gratitude, even the meditation. I don't think we touched on that at all, but I just use the Headspace app day to day, just to become more present in the now. So I think we covered a lot there, the fitness and nutrition. So hopefully a lot of people got some value from this. So that's the main aim, isn't it?
And I think, like, importantly, if people are struggling, if they can, like, even watching this or listening, they can kind of not be afraid, actually do ask for help, and don't wait, just if you are struggling at this time. So where can people find you? Where's the best place? I know you said CK Fitness is your Instagram.
Yeah, so I suppose Instagram is where I put most of my stuff. So at CK Fitness 1, or Facebook, sometimes I put up some stuff. It's CK Fitness, and then my website is CillianKeaneFitness.com, and that's where you'll get me. So yeah.
Perfect. I'll leave them in the show notes as well for
Perfect.
anyone. And yeah, thanks a million for coming on, Cillian. Really appreciate your time. And to the listeners, we will see you in the next episode. If you did find some value from this, please drop us a comment or leave us a message, or don't be afraid to reach out to Cillian as well about anything to do with mental health or public speaking. I'm sure he's more than happy to help.
Yeah, perfect.
And we will see you guys in the next episode.
Cheers, Matt. Thanks a million.
No bother.